Hi, welcome to Quietly Thinking Out Loud. For the past couple of weeks, I haven't recorded a podcast episode. I've been quietly experimenting with some quote cards from my books and sharing them in different places online and using a small budget to see how people might respond. At first, it was simply an experiment. I wanted to understand how words travel. I have written three reflective books, each exploring different parts of life: grief, freedom, joy, relationships, self worth, and what it means to live well. A book is very quiet from It's a quiet form of communication. You write carefully, you choose the words, you arrange the chapters, and you publish it. And then, for the most part, you let it go. And someone may read it, underline a sentence, pause at a paragraph, or return to a page weeks later. But as the writer, you usually never know. Occasionally, a reader may write to you, but most readers remain silent. The books travels into their life, but their reaction doesn't always travel back to you. This small experiment gave me something different. It it gave me a glimpse of how people reacted to individual sentence, not the whole book, not the full chapter, just a few words on a quote card. I share the same kind of reflective ideas in different places online, and I quickly noticed that every place had its own atmosphere. One of them reminded me of a Sunday market. It was lively. People wander around, sometimes without looking for anything in particular. They stopped when something caught their attention. They looked, they reacted. Some shared a post, some saved it. Some left a short comment or emojis. And then they continued walking through the market. With a modest budget for a promotion campaign, I could see the movement more clearly. The dashboard provided numbers I could analyze, like views, like likes, shares, saved, age groups, countries, visitors, returning visitors. And honestly, I enjoy this part very much. Perhaps it comes from my years of working in human resources. I've always been curious about people. Numbers can tell us what happened, but people make us wonder why. And behind those numbers were usernames. And behind every click was a username. And behind every username was a real person. People are wonderfully creative with their usernames. Some are cheerful, some are playful, some sound adventurous, some are mysterious, some are very direct, some are full of sunshine, flowers, laughter, hope, travel, or love, and some made me smile. And then I started noticing which theme people saved. That was when the experiment became more interesting. Some of the happiest sounding usernames were saving quote cards about grief. Accounts that appear bright, playful, or joyful were quietly keeping words about sorrow, loss, and learning to live with pain. That stay with me. Of course, a username cannot tell us someone's full story. A profile doesn't explain a person. We shouldn't assume that we know someone simply because of what they choose to show online. But those small reactions reminded me of something very human. A cheerful person can know sorrow. A playful person can carry grief. Someone who makes others laugh may also understand loneliness. Someone who appears strong may still need a few gentle words to return to later. A safe is very quiet reaction. It doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't explain why. It simply says, perhaps these words mean something to me, or I may need these words again one day. And other themes travel differently. Words about friendship found one group of people. Words about self-worth found another. Reflections on forgiveness, healing, relationships, and emotional freedom seem to find their own homes. The same words were not received in the same way by everyone, and that makes sense. Human beings share many of the same emotions. We know happiness, we know laughter, sadness, sorrow, hope, and we know love. But we don't experience these emotions in exactly the same way. The meaning of a sentence may be shared, but its depth is shaped by individual experience. A quote about grief may touch someone who has recently lost a loved one very differently from someone who has not. A reflection on friendship may bring gratitude to one person and maybe regret to another. Words about self-worth may feel encouraging to someone, while for someone else they may touch an old wound. We may never fully understand one another without knowing the whole story, but sometimes we can still feel the meaning behind the words. We recognize something, not because of our lives are identical, but because our emotions overlapped. Perhaps that is one of the quiet gifts of language. Words don't require us to have lived the same life. They create a small meeting place. For a moment, two people from different countries, different generations, and different backgrounds may recognize the same feeling. The depth may be different, the story may be different, but the emotions is familiar. The other online places felt different too. One reminded me of a shopping mall. It was crowded. There was a lot of movement and plenty of people walking past. Some looked through the window. A few stepped inside. Fewer stayed for long. Another place felt more like a quiet retreat or a small reading room. There were fewer visitors. People didn't seem to arrive there by accident. Those who came appeared to come with more intention. For a while, I thought that fewer visitors meant that nothing was happening. I even joked that the place felt like a ghost town, but perhaps that was not quite fair. A quiet reading room is not failed Sunday market. A retreat is not an empty shopping mall. They simply serve different purposes. Each place has its own audience, rhythm, and culture. The same content can live a very different life depending on where it is shared. That is true online, but perhaps it is also true in life. The same person may speak freely in one room and remain quiet in another. The same idea may be welcomed by one group and misunderstood by another. The same story may touch someone deeply while passing almost unnoticed by someone else. Context matters, timing matters, readiness matters too, and perhaps resonance cannot always be forced. This experiment began as a practical exercise. I wanted to learn about platforms, audiences, and how a small promotion might work. I thought I would be studying numbers. Instead, I found myself thinking about people again. The social platform gave me something I rarely receive from my books. It gave me visible reaction to specific words, not complete explanations, not full conversations, just small signals like pause, click, save, share, a quiet decision to keep a sentence. And for the first time, I wasn't only sending words into the world, it was quietly watching the world respond. And what I learned wasn't simply which chord performed better. I learned that people often connect with words in ways we cannot predict. The brightest looking person may be drawn to grief. The quietest person may say something about hope. And someone who appears confident may keep a reminder about self-worth. Someone surrounded by people may connect with words about loneliness. We never really know what another person is carrying. And that doesn't mean everyone is suffering. It simply means that a person is always more complex than the small part that we can see. Perhaps this is why kindness matters, why words matters too. A few thoughtful words may reach someone we will never meet. They may arrive at the right moment. They may not change a life, but they may offer a pause, a small sense of recognition, a reminder that someone else has felt something similar. This little experience of the experiment taught me how words travel. But more importantly, it reminded me how emotions travel across countries, across ages, across cultures, across screens, and sometimes between two people who will never know each other's names. We may not live the same story. We may not feel every emotion with the same depth. But beneath our differences, we recognize happiness, laughter, sadness, hope, and love. Perhaps we've been speaking the same emotional language all along, quietly, in our own ways. Well, thank you for being here with me today. Until next time, take care.